The story of Zhang Zhun and Zhun Xin. Where does acting end and love begin? Have you ever wondered what would happen if two actors became so deeply immersed in their roles that, eventually, they could no longer tell where the acting ended and their real feelings began? This is the story of Deep in the Act. At the center of the story is Zhang Zhun, an actor who is trying to find his place in the entertainment industry. Like many actors, he dreams of getting an opportunity that will finally allow him to prove himself. But getting a role is only the beginning. Soon, Zhang Zhun finds himself working closely with another actor, Zhun Xin. Unlike Zhang Zhun, Zhun Xin is already confident and experienced. He has a presence that makes it difficult for other people to understand what he is really thinking. From their first interactions, the two don't immediately have an easy relationship. There is tension between them. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes it's hidden behind their conversations and the way they look at each other. But because they have to work together, they can't simply walk away from one another. As filming continues, Zhang Zhun begins to understand that acting alongside Zhun Xin is different from anything he has experienced before. The roles they are playing require them to become emotionally close. They have to understand their characters. They have to understand each other's reactions. And most importantly, they have to make the audience believe that the emotions between their characters are real. At first, that's exactly what they're doing. They're acting. They're following a script. They're playing characters who are supposed to feel something for each other. But the more time they spend together, the more complicated everything becomes. There are moments when Zhang Zhun starts wondering about Zhun Xin's intentions. Is Zhun Xin simply helping him become better at his role? Is he deliberately pushing him because that's what the character requires? Or is there something else behind the way he treats him? The problem is that there isn't always an obvious answer. A look can be part of the performance. A touch can be part of the scene. A smile can simply be something an actor does for the camera. But what happens when those same things continue even after the cameras stop? That's when Zhang Zhun starts becoming confused. The relationship between them begins to feel different. They aren't simply two actors working on the same project anymore. They're becoming two people who are increasingly aware of each other. Zhang Zhun begins noticing the small things. The way Zhun Xin looks at him. The way he responds to him. The moments when Zhun Xin seems to care even when there is no audience watching. And slowly, those moments begin affecting Zhang Zhun. He starts feeling something that he can't easily explain. But admitting those feelings isn't simple. Because when your relationship begins inside a story, how can you know whether what you're feeling is real? That's the question that follows them throughout the story. For Zhang Zhun, the hardest part isn't simply falling for someone. It's wondering whether that person feels the same way. And for Zhun Xin, there are also feelings that he doesn't easily reveal. The closer they become, the more difficult it becomes to hide behind their roles. The characters they play may have a script, but Zhang Zhun and Zhun Xin don't. Their real relationship has no lines telling them what to say. No director can tell them exactly what they're supposed to feel. And that's what makes everything more complicated. The moments that once felt like part of the job slowly begin to carry a different meaning. A simple conversation can become something deeper. A glance can last a little too long. A touch can feel different from the ones they were supposed to perform. And the more they try to understand what is happening between them, the more difficult it becomes to separate fiction from reality. Eventually, they have to confront the feelings that they've been trying to avoid. Because pretending can only work for so long. At some point, they have to ask themselves whether what exists between them is only part of the story, or whether they have created a story of their own. And perhaps that's what makes their relationship so complicated. They didn't begin with a simple love story. They began with characters, with a script, with cameras watching them. But somewhere along the way, something happened that wasn't written on the page. They started seeing each other not simply as actors, but as two people who understood something about one another. And sometimes, the most confusing feelings are the ones that begin when you're only pretending. Because when you spend enough time pretending to care about someone, when you spend enough time looking into their eyes, when you spend enough time playing a relationship, you might eventually realize that the feelings you're pretending to have aren't pretend anymore. And that's where Deep in the Act becomes more than just a story about acting. It's a story about uncertainty, about trust, about two people trying to understand whether the connection between them exists only because of the characters they play, or because of who they really are. In the end, The biggest question isn't whether they can play their characters convincingly. It's whether they can finally be honest with themselves. Because the cameras can stop. The scene can end. The director can say cut. But feelings don't always disappear when the acting is over. Sometimes, the story continues even after the script ends. And maybe that's the real meaning behind being deep in the act. You start by pretending. You follow the script. You play the role. And then, somewhere along the way, you realize that you may have fallen for real.